Stephen can edit it in and then make it look like we know what we're talking about.
Four men in a wormhole. Welcome to Season 2, Show 8, or Show 8 of Season 2 of Four Men in a Wormhole. I'm Stephen Gurevich, your ever-balding host, but growing a fine, I think, winter beard with my Gandalf hairs. And joining me, as ever, are my companions, my fellow wormies, otherwise known as Simon Cohen. Hello, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Hello, boys. Good to see you all.
Hello.
Hello.
Charles Silverman, hello.
Oh, hello. I was just helloing Simon's hello. But
I sport the hellos, didn't I? I sport the intro. Just saying hello to everyone. Sorry.
Hi, everyone.
I've interrupted you.
Again. Hi, Tom.
Hello.
This is who would have thought that the hellos would become a feature and a segment in their own right? But it would seem this hello is going to be. Adam, you're shaking your head in disbelief. But hello and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Hi, Stephen. Hi, fellow wormies. Good to be here again, recording, and Season 2 is still going. It's marvellous.
It's marvellous. And for those listening on Deezer or other streaming or download platforms,
other streaming platforms
are available. But for those who can't see Adam has decided to dress as a Star Trek officer from the 1960s series tonight, or at least he's wearing clothes that approximate to it.
I've subconsciously done that. I'm quite pleased I've subconsciously done it. I did think that the jumper was a bit old man, and maybe I should change into like a t-shirt, but then I thought I can't be bothered, which probably suggests it is quite old man.
It's quite old man, comfy, but you've made the right decision because it seems very thematic. So and Simon Cohen, if you don't mind me saying, your background, it's actually quite dynamic because I feel like Hawkeye is actually aiming at me right now.
Yes, isn't it? Well, I've got him aiming at Adam, I think.
Yeah.
But I'll tell him to move and point it at you.
Thank you. It's very good. So, as always, we're going to dive into the first segment, which is what sci-fi news or content have we been enjoying, watching, reading, playing, or whatever it may be. Obviously, we're into a new year. There's new content to talk about, to catch up on, and all the rest of it. So let's dive straight in. Simon, you've been staring up at the night sky.
Yeah, very good. I like what you did there.
Thank you.
I watched over New Year while I was quarantining alone because I had COVID. I watched quite a lot of telly, but I watched this movie, Don't Look Up, on Netflix, which you've probably heard of. It's been in the news quite a lot because it's been one of their most successful movies. It's basically an on the face of it, it looks like an Independence Day type movie with an asteroid on course for Earth, but then it sort of takes a slightly sort of different tone and mode. I should say it's got a fantastic cast with Leonardo DiCaprio taking the lead, and Meryl Streep and Jonah Hill, and just loads of really, really great cast. But what's different about it is it's not strictly a sci-fi movie. I mean, it is a sci-fi movie because there's an asteroid coming to Earth, and there are, to a certain extent, attempts to destroy the asteroid. But actually, what it's about is a sort of a commentary on on social media and what makes the news and what people want to listen to and watch and believe in society and in the world. And the reason it's called Don't Look Up is because actually, what happens is people don't really want to believe that this thing is happening. And they just rather ignore it and concentrate on more interesting things that are happening in the world and in the news. And actually, it doesn't feel that far-fetched in terms of what could happen in the world if this kind of event did happen. But it's a really good movie. I should say it's a comedy as well. It's quite a funny program to watch. Adam, you're going to say something?
Yeah. I was going to say I also watched it as well. I thought it was really good. Definitely worth a watch. I think I'm sure a lot of people have already watched it. But yeah, it does. It is funny in parts. And it is, and when it's funny, it does make you laugh. But I kind of found myself in that kind of thinking, well, I'm laughing because I'm not crying, because the kind of portrait it paints of humanity is kind of, you recognize it instantly. You kind of go, yeah, we really are that shit, and we are, you know, and it doesn't paint us in a good light, and then we kind of get what's coming, and I think it's just it's very, I thought it was very clever metaphor on today, and funny, but not a comedy, because actually I mean, I left after I watched it feeling quite sort of shaken up in a way. I had to go and watch something a bit lighter afterwards, because it's quite, I don't know, I found it quite impactful. If that's not
I think Stephen wants to say something, because he has both his hand up and has raised a virtual hand as well.
Oh, sorry. Do you know what's going on there? I have to explain that. I went into full screen mode and I can't see everyone's little face, so I'll change that. Sorry, Stephen.
Stephen.
Thank you, Simon. No, Adam, I think the word you're looking for is satire. It's satire. It's pure traditional satire, in the same way that Gulliver's Travels is. It's not laugh a minute. It's satire, obviously, and satire can sometimes be really depressing and cutting. It's satire isn't always funny. It's sometimes very sad. That's what it is.
Very well observed.
Thank you kindly. Ital, you have your hand up.
Is it? I've seen the trailer. Haven't seen the film, but is it one to watch with the kids in terms of will the kids get it? Will they enjoy it? Is it just because they get it because it's quite funny, or is it? Do you think they wouldn't really particularly enjoy it?
I think they might get it. What do you think, Adam?
When I started watching it with my youngest, thinking he's likes a bit of sci-fi, you know, it's going to be bad. I was thinking kind of asteroid coming to Earth. I was thinking Bruce Willis, Armageddon, because that's kind of what you immediately go to. And we watched it he watched the first 10 minutes, and actually the first 10 minutes, there are funny bits in it, but the first 10 minutes is quite serious. Leonardo DiCaprio plays the scientist, and he's having like panic attacks, and it's you know, Louis was sort of a bit turned off by it because it's quite serious.
I'll try and watch it with the kids, but it's I've kind of been, I sort of mentioned it a few times to them, and it's that thing of like, I don't know how much I want to push watching it with them, or just, you know, enjoy it on my own sort of thing.
I think just watch it.
Yeah.
I think ultimately it's a teenager and above movie, not because youngsters won't always get it. You may have a very bright youngster, but ultimately, it's in terms of who it's aimed at, and we talk about the majority. It's aimed at teenager and above. That's what I.
I think that's right.
I also think because it is cutting satire and it is depressing satire, and I don't think actually if you're the kind of person who's a bit low, I'm not too sure it's the best thing to watch either, because it's a bit fatalistic. But it is very on the point. I mean, unfortunately, Simon, as you mentioned, you had COVID. But if you think about the Brazilian president, his policy on COVID was just to say that, well, if we just pretend it's not here, it won't kill anyone. Which it wasn't much different from what, you know, the movie is. And so it's very pertinent to the time that we live in. You know, ignorance is bliss. If I close my eyes, you're not here. Type. Dealing with science, and clearly that doesn't work because the science doesn't change even if you close your eyes. Talking of science, in science people often make wonderful discoveries, Simon, and I believe you want to talk about discoveries.
I do want to say a few words on Star Trek Discovery. Before I do, though, I just want to finish off. Anyone that goes and watches this movie, don't look up. There are two scenes once you get to the credits. There's a mid-credit scene and a post-credit scene. Both are comedic, both are funny, but they sort of follow on slightly from the end of the movie. So just make sure you don't miss that. Adam, did you go and watch them?
No, because we had this conversation. And
we had this conversation a few days ago. You have to go. You have to go and watch them. They do follow on from the story. They're not, you know, they're not teasing a follow up or anything like that. So go and check that out. But yes, I have been watching Star Trek Discovery. I don't know how many people are watching Star Trek Discovery. I know you guys aren't. So I'm not going to give any. I'm not going to give any spoilers. But I just thought I'd make a couple of points. Are you watching it, Stephen?
I'm not watching it, but do you mind qualifying for the audience why we're not watching it? Because obviously it'll be a bit weird that we're not watching it when we're all big Star Trek fans and it's a sci-fi podcast. I mean, I probably will at some point buy it, but do you want to just qualify why we're not? Because you know why we're not.
Yes, so it's not on Netflix in the UK. It's on Paramount Plus in the US and maybe some other countries, which isn't being launched in the UK, I think, for 2 or 3 months. You can watch it on Pluto TV, which is a streaming app on the telly, but you must be sitting in front of your television at either at 9 o'clock on either Friday, Saturday, or Sunday to watch it. There's no recording, there's no catch up, there's no rewinding. You literally old school have to be sitting in front of it, or you can watch it on. You can pay £2.50 or £3 per episode and watch them on Amazon. So I've seen most of them on the streaming, but I have paid for a couple that I wasn't able to watch. So that's why we're not watching it, and I'm sure you guys will catch up on it later in the year. I'll just say a couple of things. It's actually a mid-season break at the moment, so it's off for a few weeks. I think it's back on in March.
Mid-season break, is that a thing?
Yeah,
is that like the interval at an old cinema when you used to have an interval when you used to go out and?
I think when you're charging people per month for a subscription service, it kind of a mid-season break might seem like a good idea for.
Yeah, but you said it so naturally, like, oh, they're on a mid-season break. Like,
well,
that's
because
a normal thing.
I mean, it is normal actually, because US TV shows often took a mid-season break. You'd have a traditional TV shows would be sort of 24 to 26 episodes long, and they'd start in September and run up till just before Christmas, and then break for a month or two, and then pick things up in February, and so it would actually run for most of the year. So yeah, mid-season break is not unusual. I mean, it's not normal on a show that runs for 10 or 12 weeks, but it does happen.
Do you think? I know you might not know the answer to this, but I'm just wondering, when you're saying about paying per episode on Amazon, I'm kind of living in the hope, because I don't think I will be subscribing to any of those channels. But I'm not. Well, I'm not doing obviously not doing the watch as it's live streamed, because I've missed it and all that. And I don't think I want to pay for Paramount when it comes out. And it won't be in my package. But I'm wondering whether Amazon might do like a buy the series thing that might be cheaper. Yeah, maybe they'll do the series like once it's all been streamed. I don't know. I mean, although I guess if they're going to bring Paramount out, they might not, because then it's like Paramount probably want them to sell the whole season at like 12. Yeah, I'm just thinking if they sell it for like 12, 15 quid or something, I might buy the whole season, but I don't really want to pay. Again, it's like I don't really want to pay necessarily. I think it would be
cheaper to do a 1 month with Paramount than to get a season with, because it's usually about £15 for a season of something on Amazon, and less than £10 to do a month's worth, and they may even do a free trial. You might even get a week's free trial when it launches to go and watch Star Trek. I don't know, but,
maybe.
So anyway, so I am watching it, and I am enjoying it. It's the problem with Star Trek Discovery. Well, there's a number of problems. We've talked about it a lot. It just doesn't feel as Star Trekky, if that's a word, as previous seasons. Like I have gone back and watched some old Next Generation episodes I was watching at the end of last year, and that feels like Star Trek. And Voyager felt like Star Trek, and Enterprise, Deep Space Nine, they felt like Star Trek, and Discovery feels like something else. And it's set in the same universe, albeit now sort of 1,000 years ahead. But it just doesn't feel as much like Star Trek. Some of these episodes are a little bit better in this season. There's some, a little bit of politics and stuff going on, which I quite like sometimes. And it is a very well-made show, and I am enjoying it still, but it doesn't feel like Star Trek. Stephen?
Their excuse obviously will be that it's 1,000 years in the future, and so that gives them carte blanche to.
Yeah, I don't mean the technology not feeling like Star Trek. I just mean the overall feel of the show, and I don't know exactly why it is. I don't know why I don't feel the connection. What do you think, Tal?
No, I was just saying. I totally agree. Personally, I preferred Picard, first season Picard. So that was going to be my question. Really, is if you had to choose between Discovery or Picard, and you could only watch one of them, which would you go for?
Yeah, I agree with you. I would choose Picard.
Simon, obviously our listeners would have heard us discuss this again, but you're the only one watching it. One of the biggest reasons why we've always felt it didn't feel like Star Trek is that actually traditional Star Trek, whether it be Enterprise, whether it be the original crew or the Next Gen crew, there was actually friction between many of the characters. And I don't mean EastEnders, oh, you've made me sad friction. I just mean there was characters with bite. There was, they weren't all woke, in effect. And we've all said that we feel that Star Trek Discovery is very wet, and there's no bite, and there's no There's none of the Doc versus Spock versus with Shatner in the middle or anything like that. This season, has it got a bit more backbone to it, or is it still lots of
No,
people
no,
walking
it doesn't. But
that's the best way to put it. I felt it's people walking around in continual therapy.
yeah, and you're spot on. And even last season with the really disappointing ending that we were waiting for this. Who is this bad guy that's destroyed the universe? And it turns out to be just a child that was scared. That it is too nice, and they may well have this problem with the bad guy with the in this season as well. So firstly, yes, it's still very woke. It's still, which is okay in places, but I think it's a little bit too much. It's all very nice. There's no, as you say, there's not much conflict on the ship itself. And also, there's this again similar to last season. There's this big mystery. There's this big danger. We're halfway through the season and we don't know who's caused it. And I'm just praying that it actually is someone really bad and dangerous this time, and not a scared child that's accidentally destroyed the universe or is destroying the universe. We'll see.
Yeah. Also, just to add one other thing, which we've never made as a point, but I think it's worth making this point, because I've been watching a lot of documentaries about the original Star Trek. Both the original Star Trek and the movies, when especially from movie 2, this was very much on purpose. Is Star Trek was always meant to feel like a naval ship. Like an American or Royal Navy ship, with proper crews and proper ranks and all that kind of stuff, and you have the gunners and all of this. And if you go back into Next Generation, the rank structure and the roles are very well defined, as if you're on a naval ship. And it may be because of the way that the technology is shown in Discovery, but actually, I never felt there was this working ship with different roles and different departments and different this and different that. And so that may have taken away some of the grounding, because that naval aspect gave the other Star Trek shows a lot of grounding. I mean, even Enterprise, you've got the armory, you've got the armory officer, you've got the strong engineering, whereas the engineering team in Discovery just a sort of this wacky science team, but you don't actually feel there's an engineering team getting auxiliary power ready, if you know what I mean. Give me auxiliary. And so it doesn't have that grounding in real world jobs, for the best way I can put it. Does anyone concur with that, or do you think I've gone off on one?
No. I totally agree with that. I think when we originally talked about Discovery, I think I made a similar point that they don't kind of fall into those roles. The engineering don't seem to be doing engineering. I mean, I know they're not doing engineering on in Next Generation. I know it's, but you kind of get the sense that that's what they're trying to convey.
Yeah.
And it works to some degree. Whereas I just don't think it works as like that at all. I just found that, I think if I compare the characters from Enterprise, the characters in Discovery, it just didn't seem believable as you say, as people that would join a crew and be part of an organisation like that. It didn't seem like that, but maybe that's just, I don't know whether it's just my perspective on it and the perspective of having grown up with expecting a certain thing and they're trying to break the mold and do something else, and if you're new to it, maybe it just comes across natural, and so I don't know whether it's my own filters that
maybe, but even if you think of BSG, as you'll know, I love it. That's very well defined. You've got your command crew, you've got your flight crew, you've got your engineers, you've got your Marines. It's extreme. You've got your pilots. It's extremely well defined, and it grounds it. Also creates the illusion that when you're seeing a scene with just two people speaking, you know that behind them all this other stuff's going on. Whereas in Discovery, they just seem to be in continual therapy all the time. It's like everyone is with Councillor Troy, and that's all they ever do.
I have to say though, Simon, that in the episode of Doctor Who called The Library, I think it's a computer consciousness that thinks that it's a little girl who's having a tantrum, and that comes across really kind of spooky and mean.
What's that got to do with Star Trek?
Well, you said your point was that there was a big baddie, and the big bad.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, got it.
A child. That was that. It was a bit late. I came in with it because I think
Damien in The Omen might have been a better analogy, Adam.
Yeah.
Just on that, just on the computer having a personality. So one interesting thing they are doing in Star Trek Discovery this season is developing the computer's personality, who now has a name, and
great, like Holly.
And, yes, it's quite interesting, and not exactly not too far from the truth. But I'll save that for you to be able to watch for yourself. But yeah, this ship's computer is getting a personality.
Well, that's wonderful, Simon. And we normally wait for the end of the podcast for our bombshells, but there you heard it here first. Star Trek Discovery is in effect reinventing Holly from Red Dwarf. Thank you, Adam, and thank you, Simon. Tal, you like to read books, and I believe the book you've been reading is the Book of Boba Fett.
Ah, yes. You threw me there for a minute. I thought,
hey.
Am I supposed to have actually been reading a book? Because I haven't read a book for a long time. Yes. Don't do that to me, Stephen. Yeah, Boba Fett. So I guess I'll give you should give a quick summary of the kind of synopsis for Boba Fett. It's coming off the back of Mandalorian, but isn't actually linked to the Mandalorian, even though Boba Fett does wear Mandalorian armor. He's not actually a Mandalorian.
Is he not a Mandalorian? I mean,
no, he's not. He's not. He's just Jango Fett's son, and Jango Fett was chosen to. So yeah, he was never brought up as a Mandalorian, apparently. So
he can take off his helmet whenever he wants.
Right. Yeah, I guess again another reason why he's so ready to take his helmet off. So basically, it's set. What I really have enjoyed about it is the time it's set in, which is essentially after Jabba the Hutt, basically. So it's sort of set not that long, kind of after Jabba the Hutt dies. He basically fills the vacuum after Jabba the Hutt gets killed. As the new crime lord of that area.
That's all set after Return of the Jedi. When is Mandalorian is set? When is Mandalorian set? I know
it's at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah, but this is after Mandalorian, because this is after the series The Mandalorian, because it's when he's got together with what's her face, and so this is post Mandalorian.
Not all of it though. Not all of it, because there are flashbacks which are set before.
Yeah,
the Mandalorian.
They have flashbacks, but in terms of the now moments are set post Mandalorian.
So, but overall, I think. That aside, I think for me the jury's out as to whether or not I'm really enjoying it, or whether I'm enjoying it more than the Mandalorian. I remember we talked about Mandalorian the first early seasons, and we said, I think I did say then that I found some of it a little bit pedestrian, the Mandalorian, even though overall I enjoyed it, and it had a great ending and everything like that. But it's like, actually, I just felt that it was just felt a little bit like episodes of the A-Team and all that kind of stuff, which is one thing after another. This does feel slightly different. I'm enjoying the things I'm enjoying for it. I mean, again, the music's great. So yeah, the composer Ludwig Göransson, who basically did the music for The Mandalorian, who it goes a great way in sort of setting the scene in terms of, it does feel very kind of Western, very kind of outlaw kind of music, which works very well with it. So really enjoying that. And obviously the visuals are brilliant. It's really well shot. But yeah, I think just overall, it's not got going for me. I haven't seen episode 4 yet, which I know was out today. But I've seen up to episode 3, and I just felt that it still feels like it's kind of got a bit of getting going to be done. Don't know how you guys feel about it.
Well, going back to your comment about The Mandalorian, if you recall, I thought season 1 was really well made, but slow, and then it got going in season 2. And I just wonder if Disney clearly are not doing what Netflix does. They're not launching something and killing it after one season. So they're letting the stories breathe, and that's no bad thing. So if season 2 if season 1 of this, let's say, is a bit slow and is a lot of what I call backstory and development, then it will get going season 2.
So I think you're right. I think going from what you said, Steve, I think actually you might be right in so much as what I am quite enjoying, which is probably why they're having to take it a little bit slow, is I'm quite enjoying all the tribal kind of feudalism aspects of it in terms of all the different kind of power plays that are kind of going on in this power vacuum that Jabba the Hutt's left behind him. You've got Jabba the Hutt's cousins, I think, that are kind of trying to kind of assert their kind of control over it again. And there's quite a lot of kind of this, the Tuscans and all this sort of thing. So there's kind of lots of different tribes that are kind of all having their different kind of, so in a way, they kind of have to build that fairly slowly, I think, because it's quite complicated. I think there's quite a lot to it. And I think in terms of who's doing what and who the kind of power brokers are, they're trying to reveal, but they are revealing it all quite slowly, and it kind of is taking its time a bit. But yeah.
You know who could turn up? Because I've got the timeline right this time. Han Solo. Because Han Solo, as we know from The Force Awakens, left the Republic and started becoming a smuggler again. So he technically could show up, and they might use the same technology as what they did with Luke Skywalker and use a younger face, use a face on body. Who knows what they'll do? Plus, they've got the actor who did play Han Solo in the Han Solo movie, and they could age him up. But the point is, it would be interesting if he turns up. Simon?
Well, there are rumours that Harrison Ford is coming back to play Han Solo, and that they are going to de-age him. But they haven't said. I don't think they've said what he's going to be in. So, so you might be right. You might be right. We may well see Han Solo, but then equally, I suppose we could see him in. No, we're less likely to see him in Obi-Wan. You're right. We're more likely to see him in this one, aren't we? That could be really interesting and exciting. Something else I wanted to say though, there was a scene in the. I think it was episode 3 with the chase around the city, and they were in their like hover. What are they called?
Hovercraft.
There were the hover bikes and the hover. Yeah, it looks like a little hovercraft, and they're doing this scene around the streets and knocking things over. Have you seen that? Do you know the scene I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So, I was talking with my friend Jonathan, who you know. We were both talking about that scene, and we both felt that it was a bit of a copy, and probably deliberately of Back to the Future, where you have actually in at least 2 of the movies, you've got the scene which is running around the streets. They're being chased by the bad guys that actually are on hoverboards in Back to the Future 2, and end up with with someone crashing into something. And go and watch the scene again. You'll see at the end of it. It looks really familiar, and especially the scene at the end where he crashes into a market stall, and all of these sort of oranges fall over the car, or alien oranges. It's really, really similar to probably the Back to the Future 2 scene, because of the hoverboards. Is probably most similar.
Well, there you go. Well, thank you, and thank you, Tal. Adam, you want to talk about aliens?
I do want to talk about aliens. So, I was dipping back into the Alien franchise, and this was an audible listen. It is Alien 3, but it's not the Alien 3 of the movie. Alien 3 was I can't recall who was the director of Alien 3, but anyway, there was a script written for Alien 3 before it went into production by William Gibson of Necromancer fame and cyberpunk fame, very famous sci-fi author, and he actually wrote a screenplay for Alien 3 that was never used. So they went in a different direction for the film, if you've seen it. And what they've done as an audio production is brought to life his screenplay, not as an audio book, but it's got different voice actors, it's got special effects, and it's just a kind of and sort of brings his screenplay of Alien 3 to life, which is really good. The production is really good. I've listened to one of the other Alien books. I say books, but again, one of these audio productions called Alien Out of the Shadows that's on Audible, and they use kind of consistent sounds from the film, so it sounds like the film. The ships, when they're walking around the ships, the radios squawk kind of in the same way. The way that the door, I don't think it's the doors open, but the way there's sort of alarms that go off that sound like the ships from the Nostromo from Alien. So it really kind of brings brings that to life and kind of takes you back to those movies. It's just really really good. And also, I don't know about you guys, but Alien, I've sort of dipped in and out of Alien. Like I've definitely seen Alien. I'm not sure I've even seen Aliens, and I'm not sure I've seen Alien 3, or maybe I've seen bits of it. But it really made me think. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go back in and watch, because I didn't realize that Aliens is actually directed by James Cameron, who's done some awesome directing of some sci-fi movies. So I just thought, well, it's probably worth going back and watching it. So I think maybe I think I'm going to give that a go and go back and visit the Alien movie franchise as a result.
Will that include Alien versus Predator, Adam? That's what I want to know.
I don't think I've ever watched. I mean, I've obviously seen Predator, but again, I'm not sure I ever saw any of the Alien versus Predator stuff.
It actually wasn't a terrible film. Well, it wasn't. It was a fairly terrible film, but it wasn't a really terrible.
It
film.
wasn't as terrible as you. It wasn't as terrible as you thought it was going to be.
Yeah,
that's what I felt.
Also, didn't they recently reboot that? Didn't they recently reboot Alien versus Predator?
Yeah, they have actually.
Yeah. The Alien is a very divisive franchise, in my opinion, because the different movies have such different aesthetics, feel. Nonetheless, the franchise itself, mainly through the artwork and design work of William Gibson, has had a profound effect on the sci-fi world. And there's so many reference points of those films that you get in other sci-fi TV shows and movies. And so they've had a profound effect. And obviously, as films, they've all done relatively well financially. But it is divisive because each movie is so different. They almost have their own sets of fans.
Yeah, I think Alien, the original, is certainly a horror in space, isn't it? I mean, that's the thing, and that's kind of really. I'm not really a big horror fan, so like I think Alien kind of crosses over. It's sci-fi and it's horror, but then the second one, Aliens, by James Cameron, as I understand it, they wanted to move away from the horror, and it's more like an action movie than it is a horror movie. So I think you're right in terms of different.
Prometheus was a good one, I think, but I've just noticed in the timeline. I've noticed Alien Covenant, and I realised that was 2017, which isn't that long ago, and I've not seen that. Has anyone seen that?
No,
I think I did.
Did that just pass us by a bit, or was it?
I think I saw that. I think I definitely saw Prometheus, and I saw Alien Covenant. Pretty sure, because it's Ridley Scott again, isn't it? Like back in the, and I'm pretty sure I saw it. I remember thinking it was okay.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a new, and also I'm just looking at the timeline here. There's an Alien television series due out in 2023.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, that's right. And of course, there's video games, some of which are good and some of which are bad. And then there's also video games that were inspired and not part of Alien at all, but clearly are rip-offs of it, like the Alien Breed series on the Amiga, which is for any Amiga users is quite famous. So there was
an Alien. I think it was on the PlayStation 2, or was it from the PlayStation? They took the kind of Doom engine and recreated a kind of Alien.
Yeah,
it was actually really good because you had a shotgun, face huggers going around shooting. It really lent itself really well to that.
I've got a number of different Alien games, and some of them, there's a couple of duds, but the one on PlayStation 1 was actually excellent. So tech for its day, very atmospheric. Look, actually, what's interesting is the Alien games that do it best are generally the ones that follow the first movie in style, slow, methodical. You don't know what's around the corner, as opposed to arcade games. So that's interesting as to what works and what doesn't.
I've also just seen, according to Wikipedia, this is one for Simon, I think, there is Alien the Play, a theatrical production. That's in 2019.
There'll be Alien musical too. You're absolutely right. I'm sure there will be. So thank you for that, Adam. So moving on, what have I been watching? Well, two things I'll just mention. One, I watched Ghostbusters Afterlife, and I know we were discussing whether that's sci-fi or not, but I think it's sci-fi because, let's be honest, they invent technology to be able to capture ghosts, and it's a lovely movie. I'd say it's a lovely movie because it's very sentimental. It's not as good as the first two, in my opinion, but And I think I'll say it now without giving much away. I think the original Ghostbusters could have played a much larger part in it. But everything they do well, and it's well acted, and it certainly takes you back to the world of Ghostbusters. And there's some very sentimental moments in it, which can even bring a little tear to your eye. Adam, you got your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to, how does it compare to the reboot? Because there was the Ghostbusters, well, I don't know if it's called a reboot. I don't know what they called it.
That was a reboot.
Reworking.
That was a reboot. That was a total, had nothing to do with the old franchise whatsoever. This is way better, because this is way better in many ways. It's much, but this is properly grounded in the world of the original Ghostbusters in every way. Even the effects. Clearly, technology has moved on, but the effects have that same sort of earthy, grainy quality to them, it just feels. Obviously, it's been directed by the son of the original director, and they've gone out of their way to make sure it feels connected to the original movie in sound design, in music, in, as I say, the aesthetics, in color grading. It just feels like you're back in that world of Ghostbusters, and it feels really nice.
And Paul Rudd is in it, isn't he?
Yeah, he's great in it. He's great. Yeah, he's really good in it. The person who plays the mum of the children, I don't know the name of the actress, but she's really good. The children themselves are excellent. There's no one doing any bad acting. I just feel the original Ghostbusters themselves, it's almost like a cameo, and I think they could have actually played a stronger part in it. But I have no idea if they're going to make more of them. If they don't make more of them, this is a lovely way of ending it. And it's a really nice movie. So I watched that, and then the other thing I've been watching, I think some of you as well, is Wheel of Time on Amazon, which is a series of 14 plus books which they're bringing across to Amazon. Hopefully they won't cancel it. It's really nice. It feels a bit witchery, Game of Thronesy. And again, people might say, but is it sci-fi? Well, what's really interesting is most of it's focused on what I call a medieval Witcher, Games of Thrones era setting. But in the background, and they do show it in one of the episodes, there was, like 3,000 years earlier, the civilization was way advanced with flying ships and stuff like this. So I'm hoping that we're going to have something about the rise and fall of humanity and civilizations, which has happened to us even in our own civilizations. You know, we had Rome, we had Babylon, and then all the cities collapsed. So these things do happen even in real life. So it's interesting. Adam, your hand is up.
Yeah, I only watched like the first 20 minutes of the first episode of Wheel of Time. And I almost missed it because they sort of panned out to what at first glance looks like a forest with these kind of cliffs. But then when you look closely, it's only because we had that conversation, when you look closely, it's actually a city that's been entirely grown over. So each of these things that look like outcrops of rock, they're actually skyscrapers that have been grown over. So yeah, it was quite clever to
So I find that interesting because, as I say, especially with global warming and whatnot, I think there is parallels to the way that humanity it can destroy itself potentially. Simon, I think your hand is up.
Yeah, and I'm watching it as well, and I think I'm enjoying it. I think I got into it. I sort of finished season one. I got into it more as the show went on. It is a bit slow in places, and it is quite different to anything else I'm watching as well, which I quite like.
So that's what I've been watching. Let us move on to the next segment of this illustrious, very exciting first episode of 2022. And I'm going to hand over to the one and only Mr. Adam Star Trek Leach.
Yes, so this is
book club.
I think that we're going to do Sci-Fi Book Club, which I believe is my segment.
Yes.
Do we have an animation for this?
I know we should have a sting of some description. So we had a few sci-fi book clubs last time that we've come back. We've read the books. We've already talked about them. So what I wanted to do was have some new suggestions. And when I've done this before, I've kind of sometimes cheated a bit and sometimes thought, oh, I've read that and I've read that. And that's really good. But what I want to do this time is pick some new sci-fi, not some classic sci-fi, some new stuff. For some new authors that's kind of fresh from 2021, and yeah, sort of put that out there. So I've got 3 3 suggestions for you. So in researching this, I have done some research, and I used there was lots of lists of best books of 2021, best science fiction of 2021, and the first one I'm going to start with is the Goodreads.com. They do a kind of reader's choice in each category. So this book got 92,000 votes and was the winner of the best sci-fi on Goodreads. And it was a book called Project Hail Mary, and that is by Andy Weir. And Andy Weir, as you will know, is author of The Martian, which I don't know when it was out in 2018 or whenever The Martian, which is and subsequently was made into film. The Martian is an awesome book, awesome science fiction. I think what they'd call some people call hard science fiction. A lot of real science in it. It was really good. So as an author, that was brilliant. I did then go on to read a second of his books, which I actually didn't finish and wasn't as good at all. But anyway, he's back with Project Hail Mary, and it is the storyline is that there is an astronaut and an extinction level event. And what is going on in this book, and I can't find it here, is that he wakes up basically on a ship, million of miles away from Earth, 2 dead crew that I think are in kind of cryogenic chambers that have failed. He's woken up, and he's kind of, I think, lost his memory, doesn't know why he's there or what he's doing, but he's kind of humanity's last hope. And it's a kind of Andy Weir kind of survive, a bit like The Martian. It's like a survival thing. What does he do? How does he overcome him being sort of in space and on his own? And they say here evidence that old school hard science fiction is back. Quantum physics, chemistry, and exobiology, as well as, and this is for Tull, aerodynamics. So I think that's an area of Tull's expertise. Yes, it has a note here. It actually is rocket science. So it's about rockets and it is rocket science. So that's number one. So that's Project Hail Mary. So that's your first choice. Choice number 2 is a book by Adrian Tchaikovsky, and he is the author of Children of Time, which I must have guffed on about before on this sci-fi on the podcast, because his book, I think his debut novel was Children of Time, won the Arthur C. Clarke Award for sci-fi. Is bloody brilliant as a concept. Really interesting, innovative concepts. Anyway, his new book is called Shards of Earth, and I think this will be probably start of a trilogy or something. He generally does that with his books. The Earth has gone to war with some aliens called the Architects. They've come along. They've turned the Earth into a flower, and killed the Earth at the same time. And now there's some sort of space opera type kind of a clash between survivors from the Earth, I guess, because they've turned the Earth into a flower, and these aliens. The write-up that I read, which I thoroughly agree with, is saying that it's kind of an archetypal space opera, but his writing is just superb, and Children of Time is a great example of this. It's sort of like his writing, I feel, is like Ian M. Banks. It just kind of flows. It makes you feel smarter just by reading it, but it's really clear and great storytelling. So the write-up here is that the story treads familiar ground, but the way that he writes it is superb, and he's got an amazing imagination. And all the stuff that other books I've read is like Dogs of War is another one from him, where the animals always have a really big role. So he kind of weaves in animals as main protagonists in his novel, and insects, and it's really amazing. Anyway, Stephen.
Bit like the Muppets, then.
It's actually nothing like the Muppets.
They have quite big animals. I mean,
but
the Muppets have even talking vegetables. I mean, let's be honest.
You know,
and all sorts.
If the Muppets were well, okay, I won't go there. It's not like the Muppets, but he's great, and I think anything by him is worth. So that's Shards of Earth. So that's recommendation number
three. Number three.
Number three. Well, I was struggling for number three because I thought those are two really good books we can choose from. But as we talked about William Gibson, he is in fact wrote a novel in 2020, a new novel called Agency, and this is about a woman that is hired to test an app, and she finds her life is endangered by a relationship with an AI, a combative, street smart digital assistant, and that's Agency by William Gibson. I should give him his full name because I don't call him Will. He doesn't let me call him Will. I don't even have his phone number. So it's William. That's it. So 3 books. We've got Shards of Earth, we've got Project Hail Mary, and we've got Agency. What do we think?
I think you picked three good books there. They all seem interesting. Although I feel like Agency is a bit of filler for you, and actually, really, you want it to be 1 or 2. Although the story of 3 does sound interesting, but I think I would eliminate 3 because that's your filler. And then I'm not sure because both the other 2 sound good. I think. Can I vote now, or are we going to vote at the end?
Yeah.
So I think I would go for Shards of Earth because you said it's going to make me feel clever. So
yeah.
And so I think I'm going to go with the space opera.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
well, generally speaking, I don't mind. I'm not adverse to a good space opera, but they can sometimes be a little bit. You know, when you're only sort of grabbing the odd minute here to read here and there, sometimes I find that you can struggle to get into them because they tend to be slow burners. But having said all that, I'm going to contradict myself because actually I pulled them all up here while you were talking, Adam, just to have a quick look at not that I didn't believe your synopsis, but just because I wanted to kind of read in between the lines a bit. And yeah, I mean, the Agency one does, it's interesting actually. I kind of didn't fancy that because you did such a bad job of selling it, but actually it does look like it's going to be quite a good book actually. And I think if I wanted something that was a bit more set sort of now-ish, you know, and a bit more kind of realish or a bit more kind of less sort of requiring a bit less imagination, then I think that would probably be a good one to read. But I'm also going to go with Shards of Earth because I just think I quite like the idea of the fact that they were kind of like designed to kind of attack this, you know, to sort of just defend the earth, and then they have to now sort of try and, you know, re-find their enemy sort of thing. And I think that's quite good. Does look good. Shards of Earth.
Yeah.
All right, then, so we've got Shards of Earth, and Simon, you said Shards of Earth, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah. So I wouldn't mind Shards of Earth, but I actually am intrigued by Agency with the idea of the AI. So I'll go with the Agency, but we'll let Adam make the final decision.
So this might sway your decision in that Adrian Tchaikovsky, the author of Shards of Earth, has also liked one of our tweets.
Ooh.
So I'll just throw that in there.
I may have to go with Shards of Earth then. I feel like this is like bribery. It's social media bribery.
I don't think he liked my tweet because he might get something from it. I don't think there was an implied reciprocal.
Corruption isn't always in your face and always obvious, but it's not happening.
He wrote a book called Dogs of War, which was about dogs that have augmented sort of weapons on them and are made to go into conflict. And there was a Boston Dynamics dog that they created with like a gun on top of it. And I tweeted that it was like the character Rex from his book Dogs of War. And he went, yes, I like that. It is like Rex from Dogs of War. Although Rex was an actual dog and the Boston Dynamics dog was a robot. But anyway, I've probably talked about this too much now.
Possibly.
William Gibson has never liked any of my tweets, bastard. and or as Andy Weir, he's never liked any of my tweets either. So am I making a decision now?
Yes, you've got to decide.
Well, we are, I mean, even though there's already a majority,
it's dangerous for me now. There's you know, a majority has been formed.
A majority has been formed, and that should make your decision quite easy because you tend to go with the majority.
I do tend to. That is my one. I do really quite like the sound of the new Andy Weir one, though. You're right. The William Gibson one is a bit of filler and just kind of linking in with the Alien 3 thing. And I did read his other book, last book, tried to pick up Peripheral, which I didn't get on with at all. So for me, definitely out of Shards of Earth or Hail Mary. But if you guys have all said Shards of Earth, you fancy that. Well, you haven't all said that, have you, Steve? Because Stephen has said he wants to.
No, I said I changed my mind just because
he did. Okay, well, let's go with Shards of Earth then. And I think you find Shards of Earth Told should be available in a proper book, as well as on Audible. So you should be able to
audio book thing. Really.
So we'll select that. Although I wonder if it's just in whether it's just in hardback or not. Anyway, we'll look into that. So Shards of Earth, we'll all have a read, then we'll come back and have a chat about it.
Sounds good to me. Thank you very much for doing that research, Adam. We all greatly appreciate it. So moving on to our next segment is we're going to do a little catch-up, which we're actually going to do over 2 parts. So starting with this episode, we're going to do a catch-up on the Marvel TV and movie content, which has been out over the last few months. And we're going to kick off with a sort of review of Hawkeye. Simon, do you want to dive in, talk about Hawkeye?
Well, I can do. Are we going to start with Hawkeye, or are we going to start with Black Widow? Though it's up because that wouldn't be in.
Okay, we'll go timeline. We'll go in timeline order. Simon, do you want to talk about Black Widow?
No.
Okay, I'll talk about Black Widow. It's taken us a while to get to Black Widow. It's been out for a while, but obviously they did create this movie. I'll cut to the chase as to my view, and I know Simon, you're keen to come in. I enjoyed the film, but I did feel someone just thought we need to create a vehicle for Black Widow. And I thought it didn't really connect to the overall Marvel universe in the sense of all these Black Widows have been around, supposedly affecting the world forever or for a long time, but you've never heard of them, and they've never been around, and they've clearly, it was clearly someone's gone, we need to create a vehicle for our Black Widow. Let's create many Black Widows in this mysterious organization, which neither Hydra or SHIELD knew anything about. The whole thing seemed unplausible, and also I'll be honest, the effects at the end, even my daughter mentioned this, the CGI at the end with the explosions and the green screen are dreadful. I mean, it's really quite bad, in my opinion. And it was obviously made on quite a tight budget to justify, because they obviously, it's not a main character, and they were obviously worried it wouldn't bring in like the other movies. So I enjoyed it as a romp. I thought the dad in it is hilarious. I hope they bring him back into the main MCU. Like, even if it's a cameo, I think him and Thor would be hilarious together. Obviously, the sister is funny, and we'll come back to her in Hawkeye. I thought she was great. And everything else was just going through the motions. That's my general feeling. Simon, straight to you, and then Adam can.
Yeah, I don't have much to disagree with there. I also enjoyed it, but I think I just felt like it didn't feel like a movie that needed to be made. Like most of the other, if not all of the other movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that you feel like they're there for a reason and a part of a bigger story, an important character, an important story to tell. This didn't really have anything other than perhaps introducing a new character in her sister, Yelena, is that her name?
Yeah, and the dad. You're right. He was absolutely hilarious. So yeah, maybe it's one we'll look back and go, okay, I get it. I get why you did it, but at the moment, it doesn't. It probably is the one of the few movies in the whole stretch of 20 odd movies that they've done that I actually might say to someone, you don't really need to watch that. Yeah. Adam, you had your hand up.
Well, I was only going to just jump in when you said that you described Black Widow as not a main character. I mean, I think that's part of the problem, isn't it? She has been absolutely a main character for a lot, you know, in Endgame, in a lot of it, she was instrumental in it. But then we kind of just go, oh yeah, Black Widow, she's not a main character, which I think is unfair. And I think that's kind of why the Black Widow, the movie, was made to kind of address that.
I'm not saying she's not a main character. I'm saying the executives were probably worried that's how she's perceived, and they clearly didn't give it the budget they've given to other movies. Tal?
So interestingly, I thought I'm agreeing with most of what you're saying. I actually really did enjoy the film. I agree it doesn't feel massively like a Marvel film. It's more of a kind of, you know, James Bondy type story, Jason Bourne type thing, you know, kind of, especially actually it's more Jason Bourne if you think of the whole kind of like them being
mind washing and all that,
that sort of thing. So yeah, very similar in that respect. I enjoyed the Bourne films. I like a good action film. So for me, really enjoyed it. Funny enough, the girls loved it and watched it. Well, I say loved it. They've watched it a few times. They haven't watched it again recently, but they did watch it like 2 or 3 times. It's a bit of a cliche, but they do love a good, strong female role model. And actually, funny enough, it comes across because they do sort of seem to gravitate towards those films. And actually, sort of going back to Helena in Hawkeye, that's one of her favourite characters. And the fact that obviously in Hawkeye, there's the female protagonist as well. They have this, you know, another woman. So it's like, you know, actually, they really enjoyed the films, actually, the film, and they thought it was really good, and have watched it a few times. So, but I agree, it doesn't feel like it doesn't knit in with any, you know, and because of the fact that it had to be set back, obviously, the timeline has moved on since she's not around, so she's not going to be in any future things. So it had to be set back like that. They could have linked it in a bit more, maybe with a few more other Marvel characters within it, I think, maybe along the way, and I think we would have probably then felt a bit stronger, to a bit more of affiliation towards it. But yeah,
I think the biggest issue, or the 2 issues that I feel like the Spanish Inquisition sketch I went to both on, or the 3 biggest issues, was one, I think they picked the wrong part of the time. They could have picked many bits of her history. Why they picked that bit, and I know why they picked it, because like, what was she doing during that time when she was on the run? But I think they could have picked a better time in the past. And I'll give you an example. If you take Ant-Man, one of the best parts of the Ant-Man movie is actually the bits where you see the Michael Douglas character back in time, when they manufactured the serum
with Howard Stark, and
in other words, there are ways of going to minor characters and going back in time and making it feel very much part of the Marvel / Shield MCU universe. And as I said, they managed to go to a timeline where, in effect, all of that was suspended, and but the bit they chose was where there was nothing going on, and so it actually made the problem worse for themselves. And they ended up with, I call it, you said the Bourne. I know the idea about the Bourne, but essentially it was a James Bond movie, because you got the super bad villain in this super bad building type thing with his army of never-ending soldiers who were all funded magically through, I don't know, Spectre. It was actually just like a traditional Roger Moore Bond movie with gadgets and all that kind of stuff. I just want to do a call out though. Obviously, my friend Oti, we're going to have to call out my friend Oti. He's the guy who helps her out with all the equipment. Super guy, because he was the saxophonist in my school jazz band.
Claim to fame. I like that. We should do more of this claim to fame.
I'm going to do the claim. I'll reach out to him now that we're covering this. I'll reach out to him and let him hear what our views are. But he for me was the highlight of the movie, quite clearly. Adam, over to you.
I thought there were some rumours, and Simon, correct me wrong, because you're talking about when it was set. I thought it was supposed to be set because, you know, between Hawkeye and Black Widow, they have this funny exchange. I think it's in Avengers Assemble and other bits where they always talk about Budapest.
Yes.
They go, it's just like Budapest, and they go, well, you and I remember Budapest very differently. And there's this whole, I think it gets referenced a few times. And I thought that Black Widow was going to be what happened in Budapest, and like they were going to kind of link it in like that.
Yeah,
it would have been good, and I They could have covered Budapest. They could have covered. How and why she defected from and joined Shield, and when she met Clint or Hawkeye. Yeah, they didn't do any of that. They talked about it. They talked about Budapest. If you remember, they were hiding in a they were hiding in the roof, in the ceiling of a train station, and he was sorry, and she was talking about Budapest, about what happened. So we kind of got a little bit of that, but no, I agree with you, Adam. I really thought that that's what they were going to do. I think that would have been more interesting. I agree. It was it was a strange timeline to position it in. They could have,
and then because then you get that automatic tie-in that that discussion about Budapest is there in the films.
Yeah,
and then it kind of then
well, they could have done it her versus a Hydra. It could have been a mission against Hydra, and there were so many things they could have done. But what the trick they missed was they in effect chose a part of the timeline where in effect the Avengers were all on suspension, and because it was post Captain America Civil War. In fact, you know what was more interesting during that timeline? Thor was in Australia working at that guy's office. Waiting for a text message from Tony Stark, except he hasn't got a phone. For those of you who've seen the YouTube videos, that was more entertaining and more meaningful. That felt more connected, ironically. Those sketches that they did down below. So I think we've covered Black Eye, but let's go straight into Hawkeye. Tal, you've mentioned it a few times. Adam, you've obviously mentioned it.
I think you combined. You did a portmanteau there of Hawkeye and Black Widow, and you ended up calling it Black Eye.
Black Eye. That's a new film coming out. Hawkeye there. So, Tal, do you want to drop in on Hawkeye? How was your feelings on it?
Yeah, I absolutely loved Hawkeye. In fact, I would go as far as saying, out of all of the recent series since the whole Disney Plus thing, I would say it's my favourite. I know Loki. I did really enjoy Loki as well, but I actually felt. I just felt that Hawkeye, as a whole series, just was almost better than Loki in a funny kind of way. And I know I'm going to get some disagreement here because I know some people preferred it, didn't think it was that great. I just thought it was just really nicely done. It was just a really complete series. They kind of covered a lot of ground. There were some nice little bits towards the end. I don't really want to give away spoilers, but some nice little bits towards the end that kind of emerged that kind of were nice little extra. Not Easter eggs as such, but things that did refer to other bits of the Marvel universe. Obviously, we've mentioned that Helena was in it, which is
it Yelena? It's Yelena, isn't it?
Yelena,
yeah.
Black Widow's sister. So I loved it. I really did. The girls loved it as well. We all thought it was great. We really looked forward to every episode. So
well, I'm just gonna contrast you there. I mean, I thought it was boring as. I mean, I literally. I don't have anything else to watch at the moment, so I kind of forced myself. I might as well watch Hawkeye. My summary of it, the last hour and a half was great. I really loved the ending. I thought it was really good, and just made me think, why didn't they just make like an hour and a half short? Why did it have to be 6 hours? It was just far too long for the story they were telling. An hour and a half, and it would have been awesome. You'd have gone, oh, it's a really good short film on Hawkeye, and you'd have gone, oh yeah, that was brilliant, loved it. Well, I would have anyway. I thought the rest of it was entirely redundant.
I enjoyed the redundant bits. I just thought it was really nice character development, and I actually think he's a great character. I just think you obviously warmed to him. He's a nice guy.
Yeah, no, I like him as a character.
He's relatable because he's not got superpowers. It's sort of
I really wanted him to save the day in Endgame because he's basically not in Infinity War. Like, you just don't see Hawkeye, and there was this growing kind of almost campaign that Hawkeye was going to come back and defeat Thanos and do everything himself, which I really wanted to see because I really like Hawkeye. I think the character's great.
The thing is, they did have quite a lot in it. There was the whole Ronin reference. I mean, I do agree there was maybe there were 2 or 3 episodes in the middle that felt a little bit sort of a bit slower, could have done more. But I think actually overall, they were developing it. I think they were developing her character. She was a new character. They needed to get her personality across. Go on, Simon.
No, I agree with you, Tal. I think I think it was a very entertaining show. I think it was a very good storyline. I like the character development. As you rightly say, we got an origin story for a new character in the girl. We got
Kate.
Kate. Thank you. We got we learnt a lot about Clint and his family and what's important to him, and we sort of knew that family was important to him, but we see sort of his family life to a certain extent. I love the fact that there's this running joke on his image and his brand, and they've got to like build his brand because he's like the least popular Avenger, and people don't know who he is and what he stands for, which is kind of true. And I just thought it built nicely through the series. I didn't mind the pacing. I thought it was very entertaining. You're right. The last two episodes, Adam, were great, and a brilliant finale, and a returning character from a returning bad guy. But are we doing the spoilers or not? Can we say who's in it?
I think you're saying.
So we finally got to find out who the big bad was. I think in the penultimate episode, or maybe the one just before, and it was Kingpin, or is it Wilson Fisk from that we've seen. It's the same actor, Vincent D'Onofrio, that we saw in Daredevil, who was brilliant, absolutely brilliant in Daredevil. It's so good to see him back, and I hope we're going to see a lot more from him. And if you haven't seen Daredevil and wondering who he is, if you've watched Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, obviously it's animated, so it wasn't that actor, but he's the bad guy in that as well. So yeah, brilliant to see him in there, and yeah, I just loved it. I thought it was a really, really good series. Also, Tom, I agree, it's up there with Loki as one of the better ones.
Yeah, I was going to say that I think it's up there with Loki. They're very different. I don't think one's better than the other. Loki's hilarious, and Loki's wacky, and Loki's fun. And Loki, I still think was wacky, but fun and meaningful. Unlike WandaVision, that I feel that was the one that was dragged out. I thought Hawkeye had at times feeling of the good old fashioned Saturday action TV series, like the A-Team and whatnot. And I felt Hawkeye recaptured some of that, which was really nice.
It was trying to be a bit like it was trying to be. God, I just forgot the name of the film. Bruce Willis Christmas movie.
Die Hard.
Die Hard. It was had that kind of Die Hardy-esque thing going on. I think.
You know what? Had a bit of Die Hard, MacGyver. It was a very quintessential American action TV series, which we don't really get anymore because everything's always trying to be dark and this, that, and the other. And again, every character's got hang-ups. And there was some nice bit of, we were just criticizing Black Widow. There were lots of nice little link-ups into the world of the Avengers or S.H.I.E.L.D., such as his wife, in effect, coming out at the end, that she was I forgot the name of the agent, but she was clearly a top S.H.I.E.L.D. agent.
Yeah, I like that. I almost think they could go somewhere with that.
Well, I think they will. I think clearly at some point she's going to get her gear back on and do something. Obviously, there are issues about, is her character the same character that was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? What was it called?
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But they clearly can't be the same. There's rumours that they've in effect split the character. But yeah, I liked all of that. I think it was much more grounded than Black Widow in the universe it gave her. And one way it grounded it, which was really clever, was with that musical. Constantly there, reminding you that the world around you. So whilst the TV series itself wasn't every 2 seconds in the world of S.H.I.E.L.D. or the Avengers, the world itself had clearly been affected by the Avengers, and that was a hilarious way of reminding you.
I thought the Rogers the musical was hilarious.
Yeah.
And it was really good at the beginning, and then it was really good in the post-credit scene. It just was really funny, and I just felt this is a musical that Simon would go and see.
Absolutely, but the point is, it also served a really clever purpose because it grounded the entire series in the fact that we are in that universe. Because we don't need to spend. It's easy just to suspend your disbelief when you know that every single extra, every single person in that show knew who he was and knew about the battles. They knew everything, and we knew that from the musical. So I thought that was a really clever way of grounding it. So no, I enjoyed Hawkeye. I think I'm looking forward to a series 2. I thought Kate is a great character, and I don't know if she's going to break out into her own series. Do any of you know?
I don't know.
Simon, would you go and see the musical? Rogers the musical?
Would I go and see Captain Rogers the musical? Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah, well, I said
I'm
to
already starting a petition.
my wife, I wonder if they'll actually go the whole hog and do this.
Change.org.
Yeah, but I mean, in some ways, Kate could be his new Black Widow because he's always had a partner.
Yeah, but he's retiring though. This is his swan song, isn't it? I mean, that was the pretense to all this. But I still, this unpopular opinion, I still think the Marvel TV series have all been rubbish. I don't think Hawkeye's really lifted it up much. It was as good as Loki, maybe, but they're all big crap.
I think it's I think for the first time, Adam, you might not be with the majority.
Yeah.
Do we do a quick vote?
Yeah, let's do a vote. Because Adam will have to be with the majority if we do a vote. That's how we can change
this. This is going to be very difficult for me.
So who votes that Adam's wrong?
Introducing this psychological dissonance here. I don't know.
So Tal?
Out of 10 then? Are we giving it out of 10?
Yeah, go on, Tal, give it out of 10.
I can't remember what I gave Loki now, so I might have to struggle. I think I'm going to give it a 9. I just really enjoyed it. I actually quite like the fact there weren't many special effects, and I love it. I mean, I actually just love, the fight scenes and everything were really well done. I just thought, yeah, I'm going to give it a 9.
That's very high. I think we were at 7 or 8 on Loki. Yeah. So 9 is very high. Simon,
I'm going to give it an 8.5.
Wow, another Adam. You're going to come in and what, 4, 5?
I think at 5. I mean, it ended well. It ended really well, but 5 is as much as I'm going to go.
Okay, well, I'm going to give it a solid 8. I'm going to give it a solid 8. As I said, I think it's up there with Loki. They're just very different type of series. So the average of that, I have no idea because I can't do maths. But either way, we'll just go with the majority, and we'll say it's an 8.5.
What else are we talking about?
That's it. That's part 1, and that's the bombshell. The bombshell is that everyone's going to have to tune into season 2, show 9, to find out what we think of the other Marvel content that's been released as well.
And what is that going to be? Shang-Chi and
the Eternals.
Oh,
I believe we need a whole episode just to talk about the Eternals based upon the length. So, which is why we've broken it into 2 parts. So, on that bombshell, that brings show 8 to an end. Adam Leach, thank you for joining us.
It has been an absolute pleasure. I think we've started off strong in 2022, and I think we're going to kind of reach new heights. So like and subscribe on Deezer.
Absolutely. Tal, thank you for joining us.
Ciao. See ya.
Thanks, Tal, as ever.
If he uses less words, you can't get it wrong. That's
the funny thing is, he waved first and then realised he had to say something. Simon, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Stephen. Thank you, guys. Goodbye.
Goodbye. And this is me, Stephen Gurvitz, your ever-boarding host, thanking all the Wormies for joining us on 4 Men in a Wormhole.
Boom, 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 boom.
4 Men in a Wormhole.